Good morning, wherever you happen to find yourself in the world, and welcome to your live dawn game drive safari here from the 8 million hectare, no, sorry, I'm lying to you, 8 million acre, 3.5 million hectare beautification that is the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. We're on a little section in the west of it called Djuma, 900 hectares, and just to the west of us, 600 hectares of Arathusa, and those are the 1,500 hectares that we traverse while we bring you live safaris from what is one of the world's most iconic wildlife areas. My name is James Jeandré, and you're on a live safari with WildEarth TV if you happen to have stumbled across this website by mistake just before you go to bed, or just before you got up for work, perhaps. On camera today we have Bryan, still as tall as a giraffe and as good looking as any model you can possibly name to imagine. On the other vehicle, it is a great honor to be working with Pieter Pretorius for the first time and filming him, the diminutive Wium Dorenbrach, in the final control room. A four-woman, a posse of women, deeply intimidating, and they're being ably sort of watched by Alex, the technical genius of Moscow. I'm not joking, he is from Moscow. A magnificent morning, beautifully still, probably about 19 degrees Celsius, which I think puts it at roughly 69 degrees Fahrenheit, or no, probably 65, 60, I don't know, it's too confusing for me. And you heard a beautiful dawn chorus this morning. We've had southern-backed tits, woodpeckers calling down there. Perhaps you heard the elephants rumbling just off to the south of us here. There are francolins calling, there are doves, and various other things. We're going to hand over to Pieter almost immediately. He's got some zebra down by the Gowrie Waterhole. But before we do that, a quick thank you to Kevin for the update of the, he said there were 4 blurry things chasing some elephants on the dam wall, or chased by some hyenas. It's all rather confusing, but blurry things that came across the dam wall from Djuma at about 2 o'clock this morning. So thank you for that, Kevin. And just a quick one, for those of you who do watch our dam cameras, please keep watching, and they're very important to us, and they're very important to the enjoyment of this amazing wildlife wonderland that we find ourselves in. Right, without further ado, I'm going to hand you across to the inimitable Pieter Pretorius, and he will explain to you what his plan for the day is and show you some striped horses. Bye-bye, and see you just now.
Well, good morning everyone, and welcome once again to this beautiful part of the world. Welcome here to Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. Arathusa as well, we probably will head there later this morning, and as always a pleasure to have you on the vehicle. It is, as it's pretty much always for me, beautiful. I love the morning, so I'm very excited about the morning drives, especially this time of year when it's hot. Yesterday we had over 105 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's going to be a hot one today, I'm sure. So looking forward to it. This part of the day, this first hour and a half, 2 hours after sunrise really is very special. So looking forward to the AM safari, or the sunrise safari to be a little bit more sort of descriptively correct. Zebra, as you can see, some Birchill zebra. We've got some impala around. Again, we're quite close to camp here at Djuma Dam, so I'm sure we're going to be back and forth here a few times. For those of you that maybe just joined us, James has started the drive this morning. He's already out that way a little bit towards the east, where the sun will be coming up probably in the next couple of minutes. It's just after 5:30 Central African time. And lots to look forward to. Scott and Brent and the guys are out tracking in. Steph has actually gone to his younger brother's wedding. So Steph, I hope you have a lovely time there. And of course, we had a very exciting drive yesterday. So I'm just checking the back, because this time of the day anything can pop out at any second. I'm hoping that we could maybe find Karula again, that beautiful female leopard that we had last night or yesterday afternoon. Great tracking team. We've got 2 new guys helping on the tracking as well, Bright and Jeffrey, fantastic guys. So lots to look forward to. Otherwise, on the vehicle, we've got Wium behind the camera. Wium, always lovely to be on the vehicle with you. And Jeandré, we just met not even 48 hours ago yet. Jeandré, nice to have you in the vehicle as well. I hope we have more time for this as well. Jeandré's going to do 1 or 2 sort of behind the scenes shots just now. And I'm saying a lot, but I'll get rid of that in the next day or two. So let's go look around, see what we can find, see some animals. Welcome, and as always, privilege and a pleasure to be here. Let's go find some, well, let's be more specific. Let's go find some cats. I mean, we all know this. We all love all the animals. There's been a lot of ellies around again. Elephants are, most of us have a soft spot for them. I've got a very soft spot for elephants, so hopefully we'll find some more of them today. And I think that covers most of what one needs to cover this time of the morning. My name's Pieter Pretorius. Nice to have you on drive with us. Let's go look around. As I said, we're very likely to see this pond again, but just to give you sort of a weather indication, I'm still telling you about a weather rock. I do like that kind of system, a very practical system. This would be the mirror image, or surfers would call it glassy water. So this shows you again, no wind this morning. We had some just before you came to us. We had some zebra at the water, and you could see them sort of upside down almost as well as right side up. Not a breeze. Oh, here the hyena. Sounds like down there towards Twin Dams direction. So I've never really been a big pre-planner of my route, because there's just so much that can happen really. But I think let's come back here again. I do want to come look around also. As I said, the guys are looking for gorilla, seeing if there's any following up from last night. So let's head down to Twin Dams. The hyena call was quite far away. It could be as far as Little Gowrie, even further south of where we traverse. But let's go have a look. Can we find some hyena? Mvula, the male leopard, was around last night. James has gone up that way, so I'm sure there's no tracks coming down Gowrie Cutline. But probably in the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be back in this area again. This waterhole will be a very prominent part of our story the next week or two. So there's more hyena tracks on the road. It's typical in the morning, more so than the afternoon. It's very important to keep tracks around and are active at night. Show you if I can get a nice clearer hyena print. We'll show you one or two tracks here, but lots of things are nocturnal, or lots of nocturnal animals, let's put it that way around, move around at night, hence called nocturnal animals, maybe stating the obvious there. But the point I'm getting to is in the mornings the roads are really, truly bush newspapers or telegraphs or bush emails or tweets, whichever one of those comparisons you'd understand best. And also nocturnal animals like to walk on the road. So things like leopard, lion, things with soft feet, padded feet, elephant. They like to walk on the road because often the roads are going where they're going and it's open. There's no thorns and sticks and holes and things. So the roads are shared by all of us at some time or another. And her husband Ed from New Jersey. Welcome with us. Just asking what zebras those were. They were, just going to look around carefully. We heard not a big alarm call, but I could hear some crested francolins calling here earlier. Of course, one of the sort of early warning systems for leopard often. Ed, you wondering what zebras they were? Many animals in Africa are called, not many, but a number of them. Birchall starling we saw yesterday. They are animals that in the 1800s, he was one of the explorers. And the Birchall zebra also referred to quite often as the really plains, as in, not as in basic. The grass grows in the so never use. That would be the most sort of widespread zebra. On zebra, I'm not familiar with that actually. Up in Namibia we get the Hartmann zebra, which was named by by someone with the name Hartman, also named a very famous valley in Namibia. And then in East Africa you get the gravy zebra, sort of like what you put over your meat, but with an E. So gravy zebra, and two V's in that case. Differs, I mean, they all have stripes. White stripes, black stripes, combination of the two. But the Birchall zebra, and this is maybe an interesting difference, Ed. Sorry guys. Jeandré is with us, and keeping in mind that normally it's just you know, how should I say, the two of us, and obviously Wium as well, who's making sure you see and hear everything. So if I do look this way every now and then, it's not because there's some sort of strange object appearing, it's just that there's a different aspect to the view than usual. The plain zebra, or the Birchall zebra, what we saw earlier in southern Africa, which is obviously where we are, they tend to have this really clear shadow stripe, and Ed, if we see some later again, I'll point that out for you, so hope you stick around for the rest of the drive. Whereas in East Africa, the same species really don't have the shadow stripes, so they've got a much clearer sort of white and black pattern to them. That could be an interesting difference within the sort of same species. In Jersey at the moment, it's what, 11:45 Eastern time at night, of course, for you guys. In fact, this is Friday, yeah, you guys are sitting at 30.
Where it is. Hello, back, we're live. Sorry, I didn't hear what was going on there. I was communicating upon the game drive radio with the inimitable Brent Leo Smith, all 6'3" of him. He is, of course, shorter than Bryan. Shame, sorry for that. Now, we have just heard some lions calling to the east, possibly east of Djuma, but we're going to go and have a look. Brent is heading towards that way, but he is a little bit way behind us, and so we'll hopefully get there first. He does think that perhaps they are east of us, though. Anyway, we will attempt to get there. And just to sort of orientate you as to where we are, we're on the very sort of, we're almost on the eastern boundary. You can see the ridge crest at the edge of the picture there, on the top of your picture, and that ridge crest is where Buffelshoek Cutline, which is the road we're on now, intersects with Cheetah Cutline, which is the road that's going to take us south, and hopefully bring us the sighting of 5 magnificent male lions, or something similar. Oh, there are some impala. Waterbuck. We're going to stop for them. We do need to try and move on and see if we can't pick up these lions. I haven't seen a lion since my return almost a week ago. It's not actually true, it's only about 3 days ago. And all around us, I don't know if you managed to hear that bird, beautiful bird, called a black-crowned chagra, one of the shrike family, and it goes, beautiful call. But all around us, the signs of the spring and early summer continue to blossom and bloom. I found yesterday, and I'm going to try and find one for you this morning, a Manilkara machisa, or low-felt milkberry in full flower, and it has delicious smelling flowers. I didn't realize that until yesterday. It's just so very different when you're on foot and you can get up close and personal. And with our bushwalks, which I'm not sure we're doing this morning, but we will be certainly doing a lot more of them going forward. I had the privilege of sitting and watching Scott doing some of his yesterday, and I just love the way that picture brings you really up close and personal with what's going on out here. And you really do get a feel for what it is to be on foot in one of the world's most beautiful places. question from someone called Yummy Sphinx. That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that before, I don't think. Hello, Yummy Sphinx. It's very good to hear from you. I'm not laughing at your question at all. Your question is a valid one. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to answer it in the negative. So you'd like to know, do we ever get flamingos here? Ooh, hello. I'm going to hold off answering your question, Yummy Sphinx. There's an elephant on the road. Hello, fellow. Sorry to disturb you. There's an adult bull on his own, and he's just about as frightened as we were when we nipped around the corner and there he was. He's just rumbling. I don't know if you can hear that. Oh, he's lovely. He's just pretending now to feed. He's investigating what we want. So he's just feeling things out with his trunk. It's just the same as when you fiddle with your hands in a slightly awkward social situation. Or certainly I do. And behind him, of course, you can see the horizon starting to glow as the sun comes up, peeps up over a bank of clouds there. Again, you can just see the trials that the winter has presented to these animals. Look at his back there. You can see that his hip bones are sticking out, and there are lots of elephants, you know, that are showing this sort of sign of nutritional stress. Hopefully, with all the greenery around now, they'll be able to recover the nutrition that they lost during the winter. But you can definitely see in a lot of the elephants, the bones are sticking out. Any kind of reserves have been used up. You know, we didn't have a particularly long winter. There wasn't a drought at all. But I think the fact that last year's rainy season was so poor probably meant that there was much less vegetation, and that the vegetation that there was carrying that much less nutrition than it might have done had there been a normal or better rainy season. He's still watching us very carefully. I don't know if you can't quite see it there. I can just see it sticking out behind the tree. His trunk keeps flicking towards us, and that's just his nostrils trying to pick up any scent that we might be giving. While we're looking at this rather splendiferous elephant bull feeding, a question from Yana about birth. Obviously, this elephant will never experience that. Well, he did experience it at one stage of his life, but that was probably about 20 years ago. Yana, you want to know if we have ever seen a birth live, or certainly while on game drive. I haven't, you know. I have been out guiding and driving about here for about 11 years, but I've never seen a birth. Yes, but absolutely some people have. Impala, wildebeest quite commonly. They tend to give birth during the day. The impala tend to be a little bit more secretive about it. But some have seen elephants giving birth, some have seen giraffe giving birth, and so yes, it does happen, but it is even rarer to see than a kill. He's just feeding quietly there. He's now totally relaxed with us. So while he's still paying a great deal of attention to us, he is feeding, but he's very clearly quite enjoying this little interaction. He could easily move away if he felt uncomfortable. He could easily feed anywhere, but he's chosen to kind of carry on his eating with his amazing foot. And he's chosen to entertain himself. It's a bit like watching morning TV, I suppose, like some of you might be doing around the world if you happen to be east of the Greenwich Meridian, where it is now morning time. I suppose if you're in Australia it's much later, but you might be watching daytime TV and having a meal. That's precisely what this elephant is doing. Don't be naughty. He's now being a little bit naughty. He is vast. That is not a small animal, people. My heart rate has gone up at least 50 beats. Phew, Brian, he's even bigger than you are.
Only just.
Pretty nightmare. You say he's a big, beautiful gentleman. I absolutely agree that he's big and beautiful, but I'm not convinced that he's a gentleman after that last rather, it was a bit of a sort of sarky display. Now he's wandering off into Buffelshoek. But it was definitely, it wasn't a serious kind of aggressive display. He could have moved anywhere around us. We haven't been making a noise at all. And I think he's just quite interested in us, to be honest. I think he's entertaining himself. That lovely bird that you can hear is called a suicide bird, and it's called that because it flies up into the air, folds its wings, and drops down to the earth. And sometimes the young males forget to open their wings and they crash land. Red-crested korhaan. Right, well that was a marvellous start. I think we will now head down the Cheetah Cutline, the junction of which that elephant was standing on when we arrived here a few minutes ago. Marvellous. I'd also heard a hyena whooping down to the south here, and perhaps it too is whooping at the sound of the lions. Elephant, he's headed off into Buffelshoek, where we can't follow, obviously, but he is able to go. And just to reiterate to you, while the boundaries around us are fixed in terms of where we can go, there are obviously no physical impediments to stop animals moving to and fro. They don't tend to have any obvious conventions that would stop them moving between the two. And Judith, you have asked an interesting question, and I'm interested as to why you're asking it. Wondering if perhaps you asked, is he going into must? And I'll explain what that is for our new viewers just now. But Judith, I'm guessing that perhaps you think that he's going into must for a specific reason, which I shall get to. you've just joined us, welcome. It's lovely to have you around. You're on a live safari. If you're wondering what it is you're watching, and we've just watched an elephant bull disappear off to the north. Marvelous fellow he was. He gave us a little bit of a head shake, meaning that I think he was playing with us, to be honest. And we're heading south down what is known as the Cheetah Cutline to see if we can't find the source of some roaring that we heard a little bit earlier to the south of this position. That's lions we heard roaring, and we're hoping we'll see them. We think, however, that they're probably off to the east of where we are now, and unfortunately we can't go there. Now, we just had a very interesting question from Judith, who has asked about whether that elephant that we've just seen was in must. And I think, Judith, you're asking about that because you possibly saw some weeping from the temporal gland. And what that means, Judith, is not necessarily must. What it does mean is that there's some kind of stress. That stress could be, it's actually an emotion, it's more than stress, it's a heightened emotional state. It could be rampant joy, which I feel all the time, of course. It could be some kind of nutritional stress, it could be thirst, it could be that he's been chased around by an older bull, it could be the fact that, that he's hungry. I don't think he's coming into must. Must, for those of you who don't know, is a state of heightened testosterone that all elephant bulls go through at various times during their lives, and he, I don't think, was going into that. It tends to expand, the period of it tends to expand the older they get, up to probably about 50 or 60, after which it'll drop off. And what that does is, the way you can tell, most obviously, Judith, is by something called green penis syndrome, which is a little bit grim sounding, and indeed is fairly grim to look at. What it means is that the elephant starts to drip urine, and the smell of that urine is quite astonishing. It's not particularly unpleasant, but it is very pungent, and it is green colored. And he was very clearly not exhibiting that at all. Nice question. Thank you, Judith. And then another one on that elephant, was he showing displacement behavior? Now, this is another interesting one, and it's not that easy to pick up if you don't know elephants. Lisa, it's an excellent question. Displacement behavior is precisely what I was describing. And the best way to describe it for me as humans, and Brian, I don't know if you do this, but when I go into a social situation where I don't know people very well, I can be fairly awkward about it, and I'll fiddle with my fingers, or I'll check my pockets, or maybe take a sip out of a glass that's empty, just to make out like you're actually doing something. Yes, Brian's just saying that he looks at his watch all the time. And that's a displacement behavior when you're feeling not entirely comfortable, and elephants do the same thing. In fact, I think a lot of animals do the same thing. But what that elephant was doing, when we first saw him, he looked like this, and he shook his head at us to say, well, I can see you, so watch out. And then he started kind of to pretend to feed. And he'd walk along a bit and then put his trunk onto something and not really eat it, and then put his trunk in his mouth and then kind of smell a bit and then look around as if to say, well, I'm not really looking at you, but then watching us out of the corner of his eye. And that is displacement behavior. And if you know an elephant's behavior, you can pick it up quite quickly. It should not be confused, however, with behavior that says, I'm very uncomfortable and I want you to leave. And that elephant definitely wasn't doing that. Very nice question. Thanks, Lisa. Sorry, and thank you, Judith. You're in North Carolina, to which I have been, of course. Very beautiful state, very long state. And you say that it was the temporal glands made you think he was perhaps going into must. And that is a very common misconception, that streaming is a sign of musk. Yes, musk bulls will definitely stream, and that's mostly to do with the fact that heightened testosterone leaves them in a state of heightened emotion or stress. So we're now about halfway down the Cheetah Cutline, heading towards the south, where Brent said he saw, he didn't see, he thought he heard the lions calling. Listen. Buffalo. There's a buffalo on his own. He looks to be a little bit stressed, and we're round about the area where those lions were heard. So what I'm going to do is just stop here and have a listen. It's not usual in this particular area. We often see buffalo together, groups of old bulls, and this old boy seems to be on his own. So maybe he's been separated by some of the lions from the rest of his group. I don't know. We'll just stop here and have a listen, and we'll watch that fellow. The first thing he did when he saw us, that kind of head shaking there, and that snort. Can you hear that, Bryan? A distress call. Just off in the distance in this far southeast, I did hear what sounded a little bit like a distress call. Unfortunately, again, we cannot go further to the east. East is to the left of the screen where you are now. The buffalo is basically to the east of us. We can't go further that way. But we're just going to stop here for a while and just have a listen. And that's precisely where Brent heard the lions calling. The buffalo, rather like the elephant, he's watching us carefully. He doesn't know what our intentions are. We're much larger than he is. We are full of very strange smells of petrol and brake fluid and the like. And of course he's probably also getting the odd whiff of human being, which will offend him greatly. Despite the fact that Bryan and I have excellent personal hygiene, don't we, Bryan? Mm-hmm. Yes, we both showered this morning. He will pick up the smell of human, and it will really offend him. Anyway, while we just sit here and have a listen, the question from Kim in San Diego. Kim, you wanted a little bit back to that elephant. You want to know when he would get kicked out of his family, and would he recognize them 20 or 30 years on? Kim, they get tossed out normally when they come into puberty, basically, or just when they're about finished puberty. It's very like human beings. They get boisterous. They become a bit bullying. This buffalo is definitely very stressed. He has seen some lions, I'm convinced of it. Whether we'll see them or not, I don't know. You can see how he keeps coming back to look. And I think it's when he gets a whiff of human being. Anyway, Kim, back to your question. Do I think that elephants will recognize their kin 20 or 30 years on? Kim, I do, you know. I think that elephants are highly intelligent. Now, intelligence, of course, is a fairly nebulous term, in so much as there are different kinds of intelligence, and I think that works the same with animals. You could say that lions are pretty dim-witted when it comes to doing advanced calculus, but in terms of cooperative hunting, there is no better animal in the world. But in terms of emotional connection, and what we like to look at as a kind of humanitarian and egalitarian society, elephants are very strong, and they've got very sophisticated communications that we're only just starting to understand. And I think you'll find that they recognize each other a lot. And given how much they mourn their dead when they find dead animals or when members of the herd die, I think you'll find that they do recognize each other. Absolutely. Nice one. I just wanted to say again, sorry to reiterate, that 17-year-old elephant is just like a 17-year-old human being. Boisterous, fairly unpleasant to be around because he's now being full of testosterone and himself is yet to take some of the hard knocks that life offers. And it's generally when we like to sort of send men out into the world to learn the hard lessons that life has to teach. There's a hyena calling off to the west of us, so that is where, quite a long way to the west. And I think we're going to just slowly ease down this road. I haven't heard anything further. This buffalo has definitely been stressed by something. Just to reiterate, I think that perhaps he has had some experience of lions today, or not today, this last night, and he is not in a particularly happy way. He's not displaying any kind of displacement behavior. He's displaying out. Question from Kathy, a new viewer. You are from Texas, but watching in Washington, D.C. Where you are staying with Rick and Susie. I thought Rick and Susie were in Hawaii. I'm most confused by this. Anyway, Kathy, you are most welcome, and you want to know about the temporal gland and how long it will be streaming for. It just depends on how much stress there is. So, I mean, that one wasn't streaming very much. I think it had clearly just started. And I think you'll find that as soon as any stress is removed, that animal will stop dripping. You may find that he only started doing it because he became excited by us getting there. And so it may have stopped dripping already. Kathy, please take WildEarth back to Texas with you. I know Jeffrey is in Texas, and there are a number of other viewers in Texas. Roll down the hill here and see if we can't hear anything further. And Anna Marie, interesting question from you about whether that temporal gland secretion is hormonal or mucus. It is a mild hormone as far as I understand it. It's not a mucus secretion, and I think it probably indicates to other elephants how those elephants that are secreting are feeling. Gently roll down here, see if we can't hear anything. This is roundabout where Brent said he thought he heard the lions, but he did think they were further in there, and I haven't found any tracks. So we'll just listen quietly now. Right, let's stop here. And see if we can't hear the great yelling of 5 male lions bent on taking over this territory. Bit of a front coming in there, Brian.
It's not pleasant.
It's not pleasant. I think it's quite pleasant. After yesterday. The heat yesterday, everybody, reached roughly that can be found at the center of the Earth. Most volcanoes are cooler than it was here yesterday. We all consumed at least 7 liters of water. There was a lot of lying about in the heat, and I'm quite sure that any self-respecting cat, be it a lion, a leopard, or perhaps the smaller ones, was doing absolutely nothing yesterday and lying about in abject misery at the immense heat that they had to experience. Sadly, I do not hear any lions, I'm afraid, so I think we're probably going to have to move on. What I'm going to do is just turn around, and we're going to go further up, just a little bit way up the road there, and then we're going to head further west. The hyena that we're calling quite a long way to the west of Djuma. I'm just quickly going to give an update to Craig. I will explain this radio to you quickly. I know Craig's had his update from someone else, so that's good. Here we go. So those... I'm hearing in my ear what's going on. So Craig says that there are 5 male lions, so that's the 5 Birmingham boys, on Cheetah Plains, and they are now eating a buffalo, and that would explain precisely why that buffalo that we've just seen is in a state of abject misery. He's probably lost a cousin during the night, and those buffalo are obviously eating, at least the lions are enjoying their buffalo meal. I think they did actually kill 2 days ago, and so perhaps he experienced some other kind of danger during the night. Right, so there goes the lion idea. Perhaps the Nkuhumas will be around. Now, the Nkuhuma Pride, for those of you who don't know, were found on where were they found? They were found on Nkoro a little while back, and then we think also on Buffelshoek fairly recently. In fact, they were on Buffelshoek yesterday. Right, now while we are driving along here, I must just tell you that this is well, it's both good and bad news for you. The bad news is that the last hour of the broadcast, probably for the next week, will not actually occur. And this is because we are in rehearsal for a National Geographic, yes, that's what I said, TV special that is happening on the 13th and 14th. I'm not entirely sure of the times exactly, but it will be during the 6 o'clock. No, so I am pretty sure of it. It'll be between 6 o'clock our time and 7 o'clock our time in the morning, going out to the National Geographic television channel. That is, of course, extremely exciting for us, but in order to make that possible, we need to have all of our ducks, geese, doves and all other birds in a very strict and confined row, and so we have to practice to do that. We can't just bumble about like we are doing, improvising as we go along, and so we need to do a bit of practice. And so I'm afraid for the next week, it's not actually a week, I think it's only about 4 or 5 days, we won't be having the last hour of the morning safari. So sorry about that. Afternoon as per usual, and then obviously after the 14th, things will fall back into normal rain. So, just to give you an idea, recap of the plan, we've left that area where the lions were calling. They were obviously calling on the buffalo carcass that is on Cheetah Plains to the southeast of us. We just got an update, they are all there, possibly an indication for why that buffalo we just saw was so angry or so sort of stressed out and irritated. And so we've turned around and come a little bit back north, and we're now going to head west further onto Djuma and see what else the wonders of this wilderness are able to offer us. And you may have noticed that the light that covered us this morning, the glorious golden dawn light, which put a sheen on our smiley faces, is now gone. And this would seem to be because there is a front blowing in. Yeah, a bit of a breeze coming out of the southeast, and there's some quite heavy cloud building up. This is something of a relief after the heat of yesterday. In case you're perhaps wondering why you're not seeing Pieter at the moment, he is having his mug shots taken for precisely so that we can put them into the initial title sequence of the Nat Geo broadcast for the 13th and 14th. Pieter, of course, is normally a resident in Namibia, far west, very beautiful part of the world, my favorite scenic country that I've been to. And so we don't have a lot of footage of him in his current guise. So we're just shooting a little bit of him this morning, and then he'll be back with us. Mammal rich, this particular area. So while we're driving along looking at not a huge amount, Barb on Twitter, you want to know was I part of the group that found Karula yesterday afternoon? I am most pleased to say to you that I was part of the group that found Karula yesterday afternoon. I also do not hesitate in saying to you that while I think I played a small role, the major role, of course, was played by the two trackers who have come to join us for the week. Now, these two chaps, it's actually a really nice story. A friend of mine many years ago started something called the Tracker Academy. He managed to source some funding. It's an NGO, non-governmental or non-profit organization. And what they do is they take unemployed, normally youth, but sometimes older men. What have you spotted, Bryan? Oh, God. Look at that. Sorry. What? Oh, man. It's Bateleurs. Sorry, I was yakking away. And I didn't even notice them. That's a junior one, that's a youngster. Probably only, I'd say, possibly only in his second year. So there was an adult to the right, beautiful colours, and that is the same bird, if you can believe it. Almost certainly the offspring of the beautiful black, red, grey and white bird that flew off. Stunning bird. 7 years it takes that bird to get that adult plumage that you saw flying off. Sorry, Bryan, next time feel free to slap me on the back of the head if I'm just waffling up. And they will go independent of their parents long before the 7 years are up. But this one, you can see, is pretty scruffy. And I think you'll find is probably still in the first year, and they will definitely be with their parents for at least the first year. You see the wind coming up and ruffling his feathers. And I think you'll find that the reason he didn't fly off with his mum or dad is that he is quite young. He's also pretty little. So when I say it takes 7 years to reach their adult plumage, it doesn't take 7 years for them to reach their optimum weight, or not their optimum weight, their sort of full size. They'll get to that. There, he's calling back the adult. Very bird-like. They're looking to where he or she has gone. So they'll achieve full size within sort of 2 years. Very sweet. Probably feeling quite nervous. I suspect you'll find that these birds are this colour during this time of their lives when they're the most vulnerable, because it's obviously very good camouflage. He's not a happy fellow now. Doesn't have his mummy or daddy with him. While we watch this young Bateleur and see if he doesn't take to the skies, I'm sure he can fly. It is most remiss of me not to have remembered that Yummy Sphinx, yes, that is her name, that Yummy Sphinx asked about flamingos, and we came around the corner and spotted that elephant, and the question went out of my head because I was slightly, just frightened briefly by the emergence of 6 tons of elephant. Yummy Sphinx, your question about flamingos, do we get... Oh, there we go. Really struggles to fly. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, in its first year, it's really struggling to get off the ground. As it goes, where are you, Mum? Where are you, Dad? So, Yummy Sphinx, I'm just going to get my bird book out quickly and I'm going to show you the distribution map of flamingo. I think you'll probably find there are 1 or 2 records of them coming through this area, but they're certainly not resident. They need those large pans of salt, which cause the algal blooms, and they eat a lot of algae, which in turn makes their feathers that beautiful pink color. Flamingo 102. So there are 2 species of flamingo that are possible to find here. Here they are, the greater and the lesser flamingo, so named for their sizes. The lesser is 102 centimeters, that's about a meter or 3'3", and the greater flamingo, which is this one here, slightly less pink, which is 140 centimeters, which is actually that's 4 feet, just over 4 feet. Right? And so you can see on the side here's the map of the distribution. And I've seen them both, but both in Namibia. And this one, the greater flamingo, there's the odd record of them coming through an area like this, and then again similar for the lesser flamingo. And so yes, Yummy Sphinx, they could come through here, but they're not going to hang around. The water and the habitat just simply doesn't kind of suit it. So it says here they prefer shallow saline pans, that's salt pans, dams and estuaries, as well as sheltered coastal bays, but they're nomadic and remain in one place only for as long as conditions are suitable, and they're just not suitable here. There we go. I'd love to come around the corner here, I must say, and see a flamingo. I think that would be wonderful. So keep watching, Yummy Sphinx, and you might be lucky. Right, Brian, next time I miss something obvious like that Bateleur, please feel free to stretch one of your long Inspector Gadget arms forward and slap me squarely about the face. And then I should stop talking. Right, while I was driving along there, I was waffling along about the trackers that helped us to find Karula yesterday. Now, this friend of mine, Alex, started this Tracker Academy, and I think you can probably find it online if you like, trackeracademy.co.za or maybe .org.za. I'm not sure which it is, but just Google Tracker Academy if you like. And it's a wonderful story where unemployed members of rural communities are taken into this academy and they're given some training that is a year long. It's the most incredible course. It's not a kind of 3 or 4 week training course in the hopes that people will go off and then be able to further their knowledge. It's a year long. 6 months in the Lowveld here at Londolozi and 6 months in the Karoo down at a place called Samara. And it's really a special thing that has resulted in a huge number of people gaining employment, and it's also served to maintain this incredible tradition of tracking that exists in the Shangaan communities. And the two guys who were in here yesterday, Bright and Jeffrey, who are with us for the next week, it really was an eye-opener. Sometimes we think we can track fairly well, but I tell you, to watch those two guys on a leopard track was just awe-inspiring yesterday. So they've been extremely helpful, and we hope that they will add to our sightings for the rest of the week. Peter is back, up and running from his photo shoot, and he's ready to receive you. We're going to head across to him, and I will continue my search, and I'll see you a little bit later.
From James back this side. Beautiful morning. We've had a bit of cloud moving as well, and we're still quite close to camp here, and probably one of my favorite sort of areas of Djuma, really, this quarantine area. So we are heading down towards the water. Saw a herd of impala just down there, so we're going to just take a turn, see what we can find, and enjoy the rest of the morning. Of course, also, what an amazing view. You know, this is something that years ago we spoke about and dreamt about, to be able to see it from the sky. So, I'll tell you a story about actually as guides, what we used to say, it would be amazing to have an eagle on your shoulder that can look for you. So to have that actually with us and to have it live is amazing. A nice big herd of impala up ahead here. Have a look at them. And as I mentioned, we are very close to camp here. All the activity of the waterhole, which has been fantastic. Look at this beautiful impala. What a nice view to have. Such a different sort of aspect on things as well. Just the herd movement and the movement in the group you can really appreciate from up there. And I'm sure we've all wished it, we've all dreamt it. Imagine we can fly and see from up there, so to actually have that around us or on our shoulders is something very exciting, and we're going to really not only have a lot of fun with it, but see some amazing view of wildlife, as we just did with the impala. And then, of course, what I'd love to experience from the drone viewpoint would be buffalo herds. Imagine a lion hunt. We've got 200, 300, 400 buffalo all running around, and the movement around that. So looking forward to seeing what that view shares with us over the next days and weeks and years. Guys, yeah, we are moving between two houses, or two homes, right up close to Vuyatela Lodge. You'll see just now, we'll get down towards the waterhole, where there is a a maribou stork. That's awesome. You don't see them around here all that often. Maribou storks, saddleball storks, all these guys will be benefiting from the drought now, in that these waterholes, when they start drying up, as we have been seeing, the catfish become quite easy pickings for them. And then, of course, as summer arrives more and more, we've got more rain and lots of life that comes with that, frogs and fish and things like that. So that's what these guys are after. Let's just have a look at this maribou stork. Not the best looking bird in the world. And this one, collared, look on its neck. That's fascinating. I think this might actually have a radio transmitter on it, this maribou stork. Guys, this is amazing. I've never actually seen this, or at least not that I can remember. I feel just this side of the edge of feeling silly. That colour on the neck, I thought for a second, I know the guys are collaring big birds, you see migration patterns and so on, but that's actually coloration on the bird, and I've never seen that. You would actually only see that really from above. And orange marking right between the shoulder base of the neck. I've never seen that before. That's really amazing. Nice there, getting the Nyala bulls just jumping over that fence as if it's a shoebox. Well, this is good news. We've got squirrels going bananas over there. This could be very good news, actually. Let's go have a look. Keep in mind, we were hoping to maybe find gorilla again this morning. The squirrels are calling. Hello. Some of the guys down at Vuyatela Lodge. Squirrels are calling up towards the camp here. I get that if it is a possibility, not a definite, she would be down in this drainage line somewhere in this river line. I'll give you a quick view. Vuyatela Lodge, Vuyatela and Arathusa. That's the two areas that we utilize here in Sabi Sands, and our hosts. Beautiful place. I spent many years working here as well, so I've got many favorite or fond memories of this place. Right up at the top of the tree there, that line that you can see to the right, that's a lightning conductor. All these chalets are thatch roofed, so you want to not worry when there's lightning storms. Grey lories calling, quack. Squirrels calling, lories calling. This might be something else as well, maybe a monitor lizard, snake, leopard maybe, although I don't see something. It does look like it's right underneath here. Let's try and see. I don't know.
Hello everybody, welcome back again. Sorry that you got pulled away from Peter. I'm sure many of you are enjoying spending some time with him after his long absence on the Atlantic coast of Walvis Bay. But there is a giraffe chewing its cud. There we go, beautiful bull giraffe. I can actually hear, can you hear that? You can hear his teeth. Watch his throat now. There we go, he just vomited into his mouth and now he's re-chewing that. Very delicious. So if you listen carefully, I'm going to shut up now. If you listen carefully, you might actually be able to hear his teeth grinding. Wonderful. Right, while you're watching that, I'm just going to quickly get onto the radio. Apparently there's some signs of lions coming into Djuma from the south of the gate, the Tsalala Pride. I did hear that. Thanks, Craig. Brent, you don't have a vehicle, do you? Copy that, no problem at all. I'll head into that area. Thanks for that, Craig. So some evidence of lions coming into Djuma, just south of the Vuyatela gate, which is not particularly relevant to you, but that's not too far from where we are now. That sound of liquid, of course, was the giraffe relieving itself. It is not, in fact, a babbling brook nearby. But just as the elephants will appreciate the new vegetation, so will the giraffe. And you know, the giraffe, all of them actually, bulls and cows, are looking in pretty good nick, I think. I think they've taken advantage of the new leaves more so than any of the other animals. And because they're ruminants, they've got extremely efficient digestive systems. And so what that means is that they're able to take advantage of any kind of nutrition that there is. They will be able to utilize it with great effect. He's now eating some Ziziphus mucronata, or buffalo thorn, which is actually a really pleasant tasting bush for humans as well, but you don't want to put your mouth around it because you'll tear your tongue to pieces. Very vicious thorns, but a very effective spinach substitute actually. Alright, I don't think we're going to spend too long with him, I'm afraid, and I'll tell you, I think it's going to be worth going off to the eastern side of the reserve, the western side, sorry, and see if we can't pick up on those lions. He's a lovely fellow, I must say. The sun seems to be coming out again. The heat will start to build fairly soon, I think. I don't think it's going to be cold, but I'll be interested to see if this is the front or just a mild bank of cloud that has isolated itself. Bye-bye, fellow. Thank you for that. Hello Debbie, on Twitter, while we're driving along towards the area where those lion tracks were found, an interesting question from you about the Nat Geo television broadcast, and you want to know will it be at the normal drive times. It will only be an hour, so the television broadcast will only be an hour section of the normal 3-hour drive. So we will do the normal 3-hour drive, and the middle section from 6 o'clock in the morning here to 7 o'clock in the morning here will be live television. So the first half hour will be as normal. It will feel...
Okay guys, welcome. We followed up on those alarm calls, but I think it was something small, probably a little snake or a mongoose or something that upset the smaller things like the squirrels and the birds. So we're just having another look at those catfish again. Of mud left. Yes, and just a reminder, as James was telling you just now, that we will be, at the last hour of the drive today, we will be doing it, be broadcasting. Well, something else, sorry, we've been doing a couple of other things this morning as well, so always fun to be busy with that, but it did make me lose a bit of focus in respect to, of course, having James on drive. It's actually the first time together. So from this vehicle to that one, from the Giga to the Wendy, lovely to be out and drive with James. Looking forward to the next few days where we will be seeing each other at sightings occasionally, I'm sure. But there is also a dynamic which actually you understand better than we do, because you're actually on James's vehicle and in this vehicle. So nice to enjoy that. Hayden is busy with the interesting thing at the moment in Mr. Wellington. Trying to think where we will go next. We've sort of stuck around this general vicinity of Vuyatela Lodge. No sight or sound of Karula yet from last night.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Sorry about that. Glad we're back at least. So just to carry on with that thing about the National Geographic broadcast, something in my ear. No, I should just carry on regardless. So, normal drive from 5:30 to 6. 6 to 7 we'll be going live to TV, but we will still carry on the internet broadcast, I think, as far as I know. So if you want to tune in on TV or watch on the internet, you can probably do either. And then the last hour and a half, or the last hour, sorry, no, what will it be? It'll be an hour and a half. Will be as normal on the internet. Now you will find that the broadcast during that hour on TV is going to be slightly different. Hayden and will probably be hosting the show from a tent. We're not sure yet. Yeah, we're setting up a really nice command sort of center, almost like a final control in the bush, which will be wonderful. And there will be ad breaks, which you, if you're watching on the internet, won't experience. But you will find that we'll be slightly different about it because those things will be going on in our ears. And you'll probably find that we cram quite a lot more into that hour because obviously we don't have 3 hours of live television, we've only got an hour, and so there'll be quite a lot crammed into it. So I think it'll be quite fun for all of us. I'm certainly very, very excited for it, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Welcome back again. It seems we're playing a little bit of musical game drive this morning. Guys, as you know, we all live in the African bush, and that means there's a few things to consider between what's happening right now and you joining us for it from a technical point of view. So, as always, those of you that's been on this for a long time, you know how it goes. The surprises of the game drive on so many levels. If this is maybe one of your first drives, if that happens, don't worry. We'll always get you onto another vehicle, or we'll get ourselves back into what we call signal as soon as possible. So we haven't gone that far. We're still moving along Mvubu Road. Mvubu is the Tonga word or the Shangar name for a hippo. This road is very often used when the waterhole has got water in it by hippos. But we're still just sort of rambling along, really. I used to be an expert rambler. What you do on game drives a lot of the time. You have these incredible moments of leopard, tortoise, sorry, big one next to the road there. I just saw him last minute. You always have surprises. Sometimes something small like a tortoise, sometimes something big like a leopard, or as fast as a hare. You never know what's next. We'll be seeing more and more of these now as summer sort of dawns and settles around us. After the rains, you sometimes see the baby tortoises as well. Beautiful when they're small. This one is, I'm not going to pick it up now and have a look, but I would guess a male just looking at the shell. You actually have to look at the sort of the belly plate if you want to really see if it's male or female. But this is quite a big one. I'd say 15, 20 years. Now again, you must keep in mind reptiles. More so than, for instance, humans or other mammals. They grow relative to age, obviously, is the most important aspect of that, but to how much food they get as well. So if you have two reptiles, let's say two tortoises, and you give them, the same food, but one only gets half of the other one, the one will be bigger than the other one after a number of years. But I would guess that one 50, 20 years old. The tiny ones, when they've just hatched from the eggs, you can see leopard tortoises that size, the size of your hand. Tiny little thing, looks like a big, what do they call it? Sometimes I do remind myself that English is actually a second language. What do you call it? You call it a brooch? Brooch. You know, like if you have a mantle or like the Scots, they would have a blanket over their shoulder and you put a brooch on. It can be about that size. Reminiscent perhaps of the brooches that the guys in 300 wore. It looks like a little tortoise shell. A leopard tortoise, one of the small five. So it was a sort of a relatively valid joke. Buffalo weaver, there was a bird flying past. Elephant shrew, but that's more at night time. ant lion is too small. They make these little funnel traps. So ant lions, we don't actually see that often. Scott and them could probably show you an ant lion. That'll be quite cool, actually. Rhino beetle, if there's dung. Hello, Roa, all the way from Alabama. Roa, it's a nice name. Like Rohan, our camera guy that's joined us. Rohan is one of the quietest people I've ever met. He was on drive with us yesterday. And if I didn't see him here, I don't think I would have known he was here. Just sitting back and enjoying it. Super nice guy, very chilled. Roy, you were asking, why do cats walk along the road? Now, interestingly enough, cats walk along the road sometimes for the very same reason why elephants walk along the road. And that's just because they can. So that's most often the reason for it. But practically, maybe again, common with elephants, the roads very often go where animals want to go. So our roads around here, we want to see animals. Often these roads actually, interestingly enough, were old animal footpaths that were then just sort of turned into roads over time. Left or right, Wium?
Right.
Right. Not left, right. Right? Right. And the other reason, of course, as I said, the roads are leading to a waterhole, or it's heading, in this case, down towards the next valley or the next drainage line system. And if the road's going where the cat is going, they walk along it. It's easier. There's no sticks and thorns and rocks to worry about. For the cats, again, if they're hunting, the road offers great hunting opportunity because they can move really quietly, very easily, because there's no sticks and things that can crack and sort of rustle when they move through the grass. And then also you have a slight elevation or depression, if you want, in the ground. So let me just put that into perspective. If I was a leopard busy hunting and I'm walking along the road here and suddenly I'm seeing something in the bush, you can walk along here and then you go into that area, and if we have a closer look, you've just got that little bit of a hollow there. And so it just makes you a little bit lower down profile wise. So that's another sort of practical aspect. It can often assist them in their hunting. Some hyena tracks here. Let's try and see if we can show you. Wium, I think maybe those ones, they look pretty good. There's one that's nice. This would be from a spotted hyena. And it's not the best angle for this, and I also, sorry guys, it is a hyena track. It's just registered on top of another one. So that's a front foot and a back foot. There's the other set, and there's the other one again, walking down the road sort of in the direction where we came from. Hyenas use the roads a lot, I mean even more so than the cats, because hyenas, they cover great distances at night. They walk quite far. They obviously hunt as well, but they also scavenge. So the more ground you cover, the more likely you are to come across that buffalo carcass or something that you can eat. So they use the roads extensively. So lovely to have some of the memories. Vicky just saying Mishu, which was a young leopard male, still is a male, but we don't see him anymore. He loved playing with leopard tortoises. I think there are a number of sightings where we saw it actually, which means Vicky, you've been on a few game drives with us. This elephant track's heading across the road.
Back to us. Sorry about these technical glitches. Not sure what's going on. No doubt the muscovite will be on the trail of whatever gremlin it is that's causing the problem. Now, We are heading north up the Vuyatela access road, main access road into Vuyatela, and we are attempting to find tracks of the Tsalala Pride, tracks of which were seen crossing into here early this morning by Cedric of Arathusa. Quite a nice title, really, Cedric of Arathusa. We're not too far from where the tracks were seen, so we're going to attempt to find them, and if we do, well, we might be lucky. I'm not sure what I was waffling about when you last left us. I think it had something to do with the National Geographic broadcast, but I think I got to the end of that particular discussion. But just to reiterate, if you've just joined us at half past 7, I'm afraid we're going to disappear. Sorry, at 7 o'clock we're going to disappear. Sorry, 7:30 to 8:30. Over here because there is a fellow trying to get past us. Right, and Rudy, thank you for your comment. You say the last National Geographic broadcast is what brought you to WildEarth and told you about our live broadcast. Well, that's what we're hoping, of course, is that our audience will expand, and the magnificence of this area and the peace of the wilderness that we try to transfer to you wherever you are on the four corners of the globe will be enjoyed by that many more people. And as I say that, the sun bathes the left-hand side of my face. The sunbirds are calling, the hornbills are calling, and the beautiful atmosphere of the early summer fills my nostrils and my lungs. Right, on we go on our quest for the lions. Probably about 300 meters from where the tracks were found. You need to be quite careful here. Here we go. So just to let you know, just to recap, we are looking for now the Tsalala Pride. Their tracks were found coming east across the boundary, east across our western boundary, this way, just around here. And I think there is some hyena activity over here. And I just want to check if there isn't a lion track as well. No, they're all hyena at the moment. So we're going to drive very slowly up this road and see if we can't see any further tracks. Bryan, keep your peepers peeping. Bryan, of course, has very excellent eyes. Just before I went off on my holiday, oh, there we go. Bryan, do you see the tracks, large ones, going down the road? Big lion, big foot. I'm going to try and find you a track to show you, but there is a lion, there's certainly a single lion going down the road here. I don't know how fresh this is though. I don't think this is particularly fresh. You know what, we're going to leave this one for now and just continue slowly up the road. There are some tracks here, but there are doves all over them and antelope stomping on them, so they are definitely not from right now, certainly. So the ability to discern fresh tracks is not easy, and it's not a particular skill of mine. But those trackers who I was talking about earlier would have the ability certainly to discern the tracks. It's, for some people, it's almost like a mythical thing to be able to tell whether they're fresh or not fresh. There are some obvious things for mere mortals like me to discern whether they are or not. And one of the most obvious things is something like there, we saw some dove tracks on top of the lion tracks. And what that means, doves are active very early morning, and so we know then that the tracks were from at least last night. Then you might find, say, a civet track on top of the lion track, and then you know it's from even earlier in the night because civets are active sort of late night time. And then you might find even an antelope on top of it. We did there, but that could just mean that it's not from particularly recently. And obviously the definition of the track makes a big difference. Got Brent calling me on the radio. I'm just going to quickly answer him. While I do that, we're going to head across to Pieter, and I will see you just now. Go ahead, Brent.
Got some lion tracks in the area, even if it's from a while back. So strange having just, something I talk about often in parts of Namibia, in parts of the sort of semi-desert areas, to drive around, and it's true expedition style stuff, so wide open areas, but big game, but not the densities that we have here. But I always say just knowing that they could be around, the fact that there could be lion or could be leopard, that already adds such a great deal of excitement to any sort of game drive experience. We could see a leopard or a lion now. We're just coming up to Buffelshoek Dam. Doesn't seem like any big cats around, but there's a beautiful saddlebill stork. Normally you find them in twos. They also live in pairs, but the other one is either just somewhere that we can't see it, or maybe is catching up or moving on ahead. Oh, awesome. Just a reminder there that yesterday I actually saw them catching some fish here. Remember HD mentioned something like that? A drone, but it's a insect flying behind us here that sounds just like a drone. Some kind of a bumblebee bumbling along. But let's do a little look around. Again, tracks wise, maybe animal wise. The Buffelshoek Dam is actually the sort of first proper look we've had since I've been back. We came close yesterday, then we turned around to go see Karula. Oh, it is the drone. Okay. Sounding like a bumblebee. I'm just going to go through a dip here, so we'll lose picture for a second or two, so have no fear. We will come out the other end again, unscathed. down there just for signal reasons. Hey. Question, guys. I mean, we always love the questions, so please never stop sending them. It's great to have little hunters. They're little predators, you know. They sit in these funnel traps in the sand and they catch ants. So I guess someone looked at it and thought, well, this is like a lion stalking and pouncing on its prey. Of course, only on ant scale, hence antlion. Rhino beetles are called rhino beetles because they have that. Again, you get many different, keep in mind, you've got, if I remember correctly, this is from years ago, I read the article, but I think over 50,000 species of scarab beetles, or dung beetles, and many of them, various kinds, have got these sort of horn shapes in the front of their heads that they use sometimes for fighting with other beetles, and they would be called rhino beetles because of that. Obviously the horn in the front, you get some beautiful ones here, you get some big ones where the body is about the size, almost the size of a really small leopard tortoise. Which brings us to the next one. Leopard tortoise, obviously the markings on the shell or the carapace, and buffalo weavers. I don't actually know why they're called buffalo weavers. I can't think of any specific reason. I'm sure there is, I just can't remember it right now. Red-billed buffalo weavers. The red-billed part's very easy. They've got red bills, like many bird names, quite descriptive. But it's not that they sort of go around weaving buffalo, so there'll be some other reason for it. And speaking of buffalo, we've got a few buffalo here. Let's just see if we can get it right. Thick stuff here, so I don't have to necessarily... Well, there's a little window, we can see one. And I'm just thinking, what's the last one? Rhino, buffalo, leopard, lion. Elephant shrew is a little... Shrew, of course, Let me just get your frame there, nice. There we go. Oh, that twig in the front looks cool. That's it. Love this twig in the front. Look at this beautiful green flush we've been talking about yesterday. This is one of your combretums as well, large fruited bush willow. Buffalo don't really eat the green leaves, but they're waiting for the grass. But this is really good food for elephants and so on. So to finish off quickly, elephant shrews are like little mice really, although shrews eat insects, and they have these long sort of prehensile noses almost that they use for sniffing out little insects. So that's the explanation behind the small five, or the little five. Which I guess, if you really want to go on about this, you can say it's quite fitting that there's many different kinds of rhino beetles if you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, because technically the big five consists these days, at least in sort of eco-safaris or photographic safari terms, consist out of 6 species, because the black and white rhino would be counted as big five. You sort of get where I'm going with that. In the original terminology, big five included specifically the black rhino. And some more questions, great. Hello Jess, what kind of predators do tortoises have? What was that? I think it was a stick, or it might have been a snake. Ooh, it's a stick. Jess, what kind of predators do tortoises have when they're very small? I mean, when they've just hatched in the first days and weeks, many predators. I mean, they would be eaten by jackal, caracal, so your sort of small and medium-sized mammalian predators, jackal, caracal, African wildcats, even probably hyena, leopard, lion, all those kind of things, maribou, storks, bateleurs, eagles, saddlebill storks, many of those different things would eat the really small tortoises. Once they get older, like the one we saw, a nice big one, not really any. Humans, obviously, people, still today, I know in South Africa and Namibia, there's a huge trade, unfortunately, in especially small tortoises. So humans would be a problem for them. But once they get big in this sort of wild environment, even lions and leopard, as we said earlier, we were talking about Michel playing with them. They can play with them, they can mess with them, but they can't really eat them once they get to that size. Guys, these are little signs of summer coming. Spring, you could say, as well. Let's try and give you a nice view down the barrel of these flowers. There we go, beautiful color. Sort of a soft, I think mauve would probably be the closest description of that color, but it goes into a light purple almost right into the belly part of that flower. And these flowers you see typically in weather like this, when it's quite overcast and cool. What a lovely morning compared to yesterday in terms of temperature. These are called morning glories. Very soft flowers as well. If you touch the petals, they're actually really, really soft, sort of velvety, silky. Seeing lots more of those come proper summertime. But you've got these little signs everywhere of nature waking up for summer. Sort of like you have in the mornings around camp. You know, everyone waking up for game drive. Coming out of the rooms and grabbing coffee and maybe grabbing some more coffee. Here we are at Cheetah Cutline. Lovely road, beautiful drive, often good for trekking as well. Georgia, nice to have you on drive again. Also with us on drive yesterday. Just asking how endangered are saddle-bill storks. Now, I don't know the sort of exact status of all the different species, but saddle-bill storks, I would guess, maybe not endangered, but certainly would be on one of the lists sort of building up to that. So, it's not critically endangered, but at least sort of vulnerable. Just because they're birds that you don't see everywhere these days anymore. You see them in big reserves, in sort of wetland areas, obviously the Kavango Delta, for instance, great place for saddle-bill stork. But these days, let me just phrase this correctly so it doesn't sound funny. But the natural spaces that are left, and keep them long conversation. Let's not open that can of worms with how I think about natural spaces. Central Park is a great natural space, as is Times Square, for that matter. It's all one space really, the world. But the point is that these natural habitats, places that have been like this forever, in terms of the sort of the diversity or biodiversity of the fauna and flora, they're just becoming so limited. So in a way, we should think of everything as endangered. We've got 7 billion people living on our planet now, and we should look after everything as if it could be, the last ones of that species. So we really look after all of them, because ultimately, the better we look after all those species, whether it's a saddle-bill stork or an elephant shrew or a herd of buffalo or just our natural environment, the better we look after ourselves. We are not independent of our planet. Well, enough of that. If you guys have known me in a while, you know what I mean with that. We should really look after our planet. Hello, John. I think we should make a rule. Any John that's on drive with us, always tell us at least your surname or where you're from. Just because I know out of the 7 billion people on Earth, there's a few Johns and a few Peters for that matter, which is my name, although the spelling is slightly different from the sort of the English spelling. John, rock pythons, could they be out? We actually just saw a snake track not far back. It wasn't a rock python's track, it was a tiny little snake from the track size. But they certainly could be out. Yesterday, the day before, has been really hot, really sunny. So snakes could be active, although today is not perfect snake weather. But once this opens up and it gets hot, you might find them basking on the termite mounds, moving around. And John, that would be brilliant. To see a big rock python on the safari is fantastic. I mean, we've seen pythons just here at Djuma over the years that are massive. Bodies this size. That size. Big things. Catch young waterbuck or impala. Will Franklin's calling in the distance there. Koki Franklin, one of my many favorite little birds. In Afrikaans we call him a swimpie, which means this delicate little thing. It's this beautiful little bird. Guys, but we're going to take this road, which takes us all the way down to the Milwaukee riverbed. See what we find en route. But for now, you're going to go back to James and ask him a few questions. Please tell him hello from me as well. We haven't had much time to speak this morning, even though it's our first drive together. So enjoy it, and we'll see you back in a bit.
Hello everybody, welcome back. I greet you in the news with the news. That's not particularly good, I'm afraid. The Tsalala Pride, we found their tracks, we tracked them. Their tracks went into Buffelshoek, I'm afraid. I'm very sorry about that. Nothing I can do. I unfortunately am unable to change the minds of lions, and they are now nipping around Buffelshoek. Possibly with the Nkuhuma Pride. Now what's interesting is we haven't found their tracks recently, and they were found yesterday in Buffelshoek, as was the Tsalala Pride, which is still there now. Now Buffelshoek is not an enormous piece of land at all. So to have so many lions on it is very interesting, and hopefully there'll be some spillover into Djuma. There should be, because we've been a bit of a lion boy of late. Just to reiterate to you, sorry about the fact that we can't find the lions. They have headed north into Buffelshoek at a place called Sydney's Dam. They were not at the dam. We did look around there, but their tracks were pretty fresh. So I think probably from very early this morning they headed across there in search of something nice to eat, perhaps. They are a long, long way north. That pride of lions is originally from Londolozi, and it was most obviously recognized by a tailless female. Now, she wasn't born without a tail. It was either bitten off, in fact I think it was bitten off by hyenas. And then in the Tsalala Pride itself, she then had a daughter and various other cubs, and one of those daughters also lost her tail, and she now seems to be the kind of, well, there's no alpha in a lion pride, but she certainly seems to be one of the senior lionesses in that pride at the moment. And they are a substantial pride of lions, and they've come a huge way north. They're in the Nkuhuma territory. They're in the heart of the Nkuhuma territory, and in the southern reaches of the Tsalala Pride's territory. So that's very interesting. And I wonder if this doesn't have quite a lot to do with the fact that the Birmingham boys are creating quite a lot of upheaval in the area. I'm just going to get an update from Craig. He is hailing me upon the radio. Go ahead, Craig. Right on the western side, Craig, between that house and the dam. Here are some impalas. 2 male impala. Now disappearing into the bushes. Everything will be slightly on edge now as the breeze has come up and the cloud has come over. Makes things slightly more difficult to see, and obviously also makes things slightly more difficult to hear and smell. So I was was just telling Craig there where the lions crossed the boundary. Two young males on their own. And as Chris Rogue says, she's absolutely correct. We need a bag of catnip or some treats to try and get the cats back onto this little piece of paradise called Djuma. Chris, you're absolutely right. I'm hoping that the trackers will serve to negate the need to buy in tons of catnip, distributing it liberally around the bush. That will be quite a lot of effort. Brent and the trackers and Scott are in fact on the tracks of Karula. She headed into the Djuma camp, straight into the actual camp, passed through the kitchen and went out the other side. She didn't actually go into the kitchen, but she did go through the camp and headed out of camp towards quarantine. And so they are on the tracks. They have been following her for most of the morning. Now the difference, of course, between when we say that we are following the tracks of Karula, often what that means is that we've seen one or two tracks and then we kind of circle around and we find another one and we get a general idea of where she's going. These two trackers will be following her footprint by footprint, and you can only do that with quite a lot of training, an exceptional set of eyes, and mostly an enormous sense of patience. They were telling us a story yesterday where they tracked a pride of lions in Bateleurs for 11 hours. They tracked them from the morning, from the dawn, at about 5 o'clock in the morning. They started, and this is when they were basically at tracker training school. They followed the lions from the south of Londolozi into the north of Singita, and eventually found them at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Amazing effort. I'm hoping it won't take quite as long to find Karula today. Mike in Florida, and thank you for your very kind comments, and you seem to enjoy the bits of humour that I do try and infuse into these game drives. It's important, sometimes there's not much else, and you say let's try and get the bird list up. Well, we certainly can do that. There's been a wonderful dawn chorus this morning, and of course unfortunately as it gets a little bit cloudy so the birds will quieten down a bit, but let's see what we can see bird wise. Certainly had lots of hornbills calling, and just around this area where it's a bit more open there have been quite a few long-tailed shrikes, or they're now called magpie shrikes. Two beautiful Bateleurs we had earlier this morning, which I failed to notice. Bryan, look at that flower. I'm just going to detach myself from the car. That means I basically have to unplug 35 plugs. There we go. It's actually only one on that way. Right, so the first thing I shall do, as is always my wont, is smell this flower. Has no smell at all, which is quite unusual for a white flower. White flowers normally have kind of a smell. They don't tend to use too much color to attract their pollinators. But you can see here, I think you'll find this is a crinum lily of some sort. It's got a big bulb underneath it here, probably a huge bulb. There's not much grass, so it's growing probably around that area like that, and I think it's a crinum lily. But if you look at the yellow things here, well, you pick those up, right? Those yellow things are the stamens, and the stamens carry the pollen, which will eventually be transferred excuse me, into the female parts of the flower, which will be inside there. Now, hopefully some sort of insect. This is definitely designed, well, it's either designed to be moved by the wind, but I suspect by an insect, given the color of these amazing, I think they're called anthers, if I remember my primary school biology correctly, the anthers that hold the stamens on them. And this pollen, which I will show you, I'll put some on my finger, will eventually, just like it is being moved on my finger, will be moved by whatever insect comes to land on it. It will fly or hopefully land on another one of these and deposit the pollen inside. Beautiful, beautiful flower. You see the pollen on my finger, Bryan. You can, well done. I'll hold my finger as still as possible. Now, everybody, as I'm sure many of you will know, lilies, certainly I don't know too much about them, but what you don't want to do is ever get this pollen, lily pollen, especially the kind of cut flower lilies that you get in the shops. You don't want to get those stamens on your clothes, because there are so many of them. You know, all that pollen tends to kind of stain the clothing. And that stuff certainly comes off very easily, just like a kind of lily you'd buy at the store. I'm not sure exactly which crinum lily it is, but I think it is a crinum lily of some sort. Very beautiful. You may notice that I'm looking very tall today in the car. This is because I'm sitting on an enormous blanket. My normal pillow seems to have been pilfered. And so I took a blanket off my bed, which is totally superfluous at this time of the year, and I'm now feeling quite tall. I can't reach the pedals, but that's okay. Plug myself back in, I think. So that viewers, I must just say a quick sorry and a goodbye and a thanks. So we have got only 5 minutes left of this broadcast. We're going to carry on with our big rehearsal for the National Geographic TV broadcast, which will take place on the 13th and 14th between 6 and 7 in our morning, so that's Central African time. And so you, I'm afraid, are going to miss those broadcasts, the rehearsals. They'd probably be quite amusing to you. I think there will probably be quite a lot of odd mistakes that will go on, and possibly some bad language, so we definitely don't want that broadcast to you all. It's been a wonderful morning. Thank you for your comments, as usual. I won't thank you yet, Bryan, because you haven't yet finished. And, of course, a great honour to be working with the hugely experienced Pieter Pretorius. Apparently has no picture at the moment. Oh, look at that little steenbok caught out in the open. Get him, Bryan. It doesn't know what to do with itself. It ran from side to side, zigzagging, as though we were snipers or taking aim. And then it realized it wasn't getting to the end of the clearing fast enough, and so just stopped. Again, just to reiterate the coloration, I mean, that red color is so obvious there. It's so badly camouflaged. Right, everybody, we're going to go across to Pieter. Once again, thank you very much for a wonderful morning. We will see you again this afternoon. I'm not sure who's driving. I think probably me and Pieter again. And we'll see you for a full 3-hour broadcast this afternoon. We'll go across to Pieter and check in with him. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Flies coming out now as well. Quite curious to see what the weather does today. But guys, we're just coming up to Buffelshoek Dam from a different approach. And basically the end to a beautiful morning drive. Guys, as always, thank you so much for joining us here with WildEarth on Safari Live. We are at Buffelshoek Dam. Beautiful. Buffelshoek Dam means the dam of the buffalo, so this is quite fitting. Thank you very much. Just a reminder quickly, we are cutting this morning's drive a little bit short. We will be testing and rehearsing a few things. So yeah, from myself, Peter Pretorius, thank you very much. Great fun being out here. Wium on camera as always. Everyone back in the control room, Alex, Nikki, Tara, and everyone else, thank you so much for a lovely morning. And let's enjoy the last few seconds of many buffalo. What a sight. Wow, all the way up here is a big herd. Awesome. See you again for the afternoon sunset safari.